Hi, I'm Heinbach, and it's good to have you back. This is a Q&A where I answer questions sent in to me by my supporters on Patreon and the members from the Heinbach subreddit. So I'm going to go through all of these questions, and then at the end we're gonna do a round of questions that arise now here. So put them at the end and then I'll get to them. So on my Patreon, you probably all know what Patreon is. It's basically a fan club crowdfunding, which was for me life-changing. And when I started it, it enabled me to do this basically as a job, as something that supports this madness. So I'm really grateful for everybody who is there and helps me do these things and supports me. So here's the Q&A from the questions from the Patreon. I'm going to start with those. And as I said, at the end, I'll get to questions that are going to pop up here. I don't know if I'll be able to remember them or scroll back, so keep asking them at the end. We can discuss the questions as they come in. So I'm going to try to see if I can do this thing called screen sharing. Oh, yes, I can. Oh, okay. First question is by Billy Pilgrim. Hello Heinbach, have you considered putting out a collaborative album made up of music from your viewers after some submission contest or something along those lines? That's a tough question. Can I switch myself back large again? How do I do this? Solo layout. Okay. No, that's a tough question actually, because I did a collaborative album once already, and that was released on micro cassette, and it's on my Bandcamp. It's called Old Sons. But that was basically people from the Patreon and the subreddit send me their sounds, and I remixed them into new tracks. I think I used a Digitakt for that and a Coco Quantos or something like that. Was a lot of work and a lot of fun. So Old Sons, I think that came out in 2019, 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Digital and microcassette, which made this a very special release. I really enjoyed that. But this sounds like an album where there is music from people that view the channel or make music themselves, and I'm really scared about like these kind of like contests and stuff. I've been asked to like at some point, I think it was when there was a contest that Spitfire made, and I was with Aleph Lenz, and we had to like judge music from that were submitted for that contest. And I really don't enjoy judging. I really don't enjoy like judging other people's music to be on something. So I wouldn't know about that process, how to get about it. And I don't have a label. So, except there's side records where I release, but I don't have my own label. I have this Heinbach Editions thing, which is basically my name for what I put out on Bandcamp or on Spotify and stuff like that, solo, but I don't have like a real label or the infrastructure in place. So I don't know if like doing a release like that would not simply be like a one-off, because I don't have infrastructure in place to support a release like that. I'm always up for collaborations, and if someone has like a really cool idea how to pull this off, maybe focused around one thing, like one special thing, or like one good idea, one space, one moment in time, then it could be fun, and I would have to think of that, how that could be. Maybe I have that idea. I really want to avoid a contest situation where it feels like I'm here. No, this is not good. This is good. This. I'm not that kind of person. That doesn't give me joy or just makes me feel happy in any way. But if there's something where it's like think of something like the tank. If everybody gathered there in that tank in the desert and we made something there, that could be potentially cool. Or if there's something like, I don't know, a certain... sorry, that was my phone. Hope it survived. A certain piece of software or technology or a certain idea, a certain topic, that could be interesting again. Or if there was like some cause to like support, could be again a thing. There's 1,000 possibilities to make this work. I would just really have to find that hook for me to make it something that's something I feel is worth it. So thanks for putting that thought in my mind, Billy Pilgrim. It was a question from the Patreon. We go to another question from the Patreon. We can check what everybody says. Okay. Retro Gaming Maverick. I understand why you avoid contests. It's a tough decision to make to announce the winner. Good. Have you heard about the TU studio at the Technical University Berlin? Oh. Yes, I've heard about that. That's another place I need to check out. I'm gonna focus on these questions. I'm gonna get back to like on-time moments here in a second. I want to also be on here. Come on, there I am. Okay, there I am. Rose Hooper. I would love to know what you consider to be the essential test generator equipment in your collection. As a part of that, are there critical hum and noise control techniques or devices? Git fiddle. Okay, that is not so hard a question. That's not so hard a question. I think there's two devices. The first one is the lock-in amplifier, and that's the Princeton Applied Research 124, which is one of my most amazing lock-in amplifier units that I ever found. And we made Collide 4 with Genelec. Like that was the spiritual predecessor for that was that lock-in amplifier, the Princeton Applied Research 124. That's been really, really essential. So, and then there's one unit, the Rode and Schwarz UBM. And I think I'll get to talk about that in a different question from the subreddit later on. So I'll just be quick about it here. It's a beautiful bandpass filter preamp from the 1950s, famously used in Stockhausen's Kontakte and so on. And I have now 5 of them, and they all sound wonderful and different, and they're all absolutely wonderful units. And then, the third one, of course, that's the word generator. I just made that into a plugin with audio thing. It's called Booger. But the word generator, the HP word generator, when I got that into my system, the whole test equipment music became from something that's more droney or like glitchy and like very minimal movement to something where there was a driving rhythm. So and I got the first one for $60. I had no idea if it would work in any way, what it could do. And that's still one of the coolest and funkiest sequences and most enjoyable thanks to all the switches. I really enjoy that. And with these 3, the Princeton Applied Research the Princeton Applied Research PAR 124, the Rode and Schwarz UBM abstimmbare Anzeigeverstärker, and the HP 8006A Booger word generator. That's the core. And then there are some ancillaries like the PBO, the bandpass filter from Rode and Schwarz. And then, curiously for me, the Brilliant Care stuff, that comes for me at a later point. I am a really big fan of Rode and Schwarz and Princeton Applied Research. But Brilliant Care is like, that's not, I hope it's not sacrilege, but I mean, like, it's taste, come on. So I, also due to space reasons, I've got a bunch of Brilliant Care. But I like the, I use it for different things. Brilliant Care is hi-hats for me. That's it's tiny wooden sounds, while Rode and Schwarz UBM is massive and big. We'll get to that. Why in a later question, I think. That's one question here from Nicolas Briand Bonsai Sequoias. Do you ever use your test equipment to test things? No, I don't. I don't have anything to test. If I test, I've got a scope, and I've got my multimeter is broken. I need a new multimeter, but I don't use the test equipment to. Oh, actually, come on. No, I used for measuring in my tape machines. I use a wonderful WaveTech over there. I think you can see it somewhere here. So yes, of course. So for measuring tape machines, I use my test equipment. That's a WaveTech 185, which is the coolest of all the WaveTechs. So, yeah, I do. So, okay. So let me check, and full screen layout. I think now, click 2 times, so I'm also there. And Eric Orling. A little while ago, you put out a video on your Eurorack setup based around the Collide 4 modules, which seemed like a really well put together instrument instead of a jumble of modules, which easily happens in Eurorack. Are you still happy with the setup, and have you considered making an album based around it? Yeah, that's a sore point for me at the moment, because I had to tear it apart. So I played this instrument live, I think 3 times. I played it at Berghain, which was amazing. It sounded fantastic on the Function One there. It was super good and was so playable and so fun. It was really, 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 really a good system. And the modular, and it's an amazing system. And we used it on a record that I'm working on with Ach Kosmos. There's a track that uses it, and then I had to tear it apart because I took the whole system to a show in Istanbul, and I realized this gets very, very heavy, and it was a very surreal moment because at that time I didn't have much music that I made exclusively with that, so I still had to bring all my Seat Lombard. I had to bring my tape machine, which is I'm always going to bring tapes with me. That's just how I love working. And then I had to carry all the merch, and the hotel was basically just 150 meters from the venue, but I got wrong directions. So I was routed like all the way around to down and up. If you know Istanbul, you know it goes down and up. But I was walking with the merch and the modular and my bag and like everything and like my camera equipment so I could film the show. I was like this. It was hot, like 30-degree hot. So I was like, okay, this is a lot. But then across the road, every 5 meters was either a police person or like secret police, all armed to the teeth and with walkie-talkies. And I was like, what is happening here? What is happening here? And the show. So I got to stay at the Hilton because they sponsored that event. I think Hilton and Walker sponsored that event. So I got to stay at the Hilton, which was pretty good. And when I came there was a little Walker flask, like, I don't know, like a random Walker flask with the tartan pattern. But yeah, so I walked from the Hilton to Babylon. That was the place. So I asked the secret police, excuse me, where's Babylon? Where's Babylon? And they looked at me like, what's this guy with this big rack and this stuff? They had no idea. So I walked down further, and then suddenly the first black like Mercedes limousine came, completely like armored up, like whoosh, rushing past, whoosh, and another, and it turned out like that there was a conference where Erdogan, the president of Turkey, was the prime minister of Turkey, was attending. So all the people were like all these guards around, and there was me, this weird experimental musician, carrying his modular stuff and everything to a place called Babylon and asking where Babylon is. So I had to carry a lot. And then I decided I can't travel with this much. This is breaking my back, especially if I want to bring vinyl and CDs and cassettes too, because that's also a way, like, I need to do that to actually, like, to make money from playing live. And it's sometimes the only way to get, like, those records to people. So I decided I need to slim it down, and I now just have like a little, like, what do you call it, the pods, little pod case where I put in one Collide, and I put in an output module from Analog, and I put in the Step 8, and that's my rhythm. It's such a lovely little system, and I run this into the Coco, and now I can carry just a backpack and my Nagra, and that's all carry on. And I don't have to worry about stuff getting lost in the hold and not to carry too much. But since then, that system has been torn apart. I would need another Step 8 and another Collide. And yeah, but for playing live, it turned out to be better for me to really slim down. But that system is it's in a sorry state. It's again like, it's a jumble now. I put out a reel where I used it actually, like the latest version, where it became like a tape looping system, where I used a module from Beep Boop Electronics, which allows you to put in any cassette recorder and use that as a tape echo. So I used the Marantz for that. And then I've got another looping module in there that was super cool, like a digital one. Name escapes me. I'll come back in a second. And that's been cool. That's so fun. That's like, it's easy to write with that system. It's like just inspiration, and it sounds good, and it has 2 Collides still in there. But yeah, that that system, I miss it. It was really good. It was fun to work with, but the whole plan that I would completely write an album with that, it just didn't happen. Because I was mainly working this year, if I was working on music that was not related to work like for film or for other projects or for remixes, I was working with Bajak, with Ach Kosmos. And there we just come into the studio and play with everything. So there was no time for me basically to write my own album. So that's a very long story to say. For weight carrying reasons, I had to tear that system down. So that was a question by Eric Orling from the Patreon on my Eurorack system. So there's another good question here regarding to test equipment, I think. Okay, let me see. Yes. Questions. Dead White Butterflies. I'm going to go through all the Patreon questions first and this from the subreddit, and then I'm going to go into other questions. Please remember your question, put it up at the end. We're going to do like a session for questions from the chat at the end. Okay, so Git fill. Okay, let's check. This is the question. It's again from Patreon. And Git fill. How would you recommend getting started with the test equipment? I have a tube-powered audio generator and a sweep generator with a built-in audio out as well, but I have no idea what else to even look for. I have a pretty good electronic surplus store not far from me. They got all kinds of stuff of local tech companies, new and old. After all, I grew up a few miles from Tektronix, have a few Intel campuses quite close, along with a bunch of associated businesses. And yes, I do have an old tech scope from the 1960s. Getting started with test equipment. I guess somebody made a video about that. That's on my channel. You could there's a starter's guide, beginner's guide to test equipment. And as far as I remember, much of this still holds true. And you're in the lucky position to be somewhere where you can easily get stuff like from old universities, campuses and stuff. And I think Tektronix, they have a little campus, if I remember correctly, where they have stuff on show that they used to make, so you can have a look at that just for inspiration. And that video, the beginner's guide to tape and test equipment, that holds true. You're not gonna find a lot of Brilliant Care if you're in the States. So Brilliant Care is very much European, and if you find it in the States, it's gonna cost an arm and a leg. Same as you don't find Princeton Applied Research here very often. I had to import a lot of that stuff. Tektronix, I was lucky enough to find like the TM160s pulse and saw generators, because they were at one point distributed by Rode and Schwarz. So those I could pick up easily. But much of that stuff is sadly, for me in Europe here, hard to get. For you, very easy. I should do a video on the whole Tektronix TM500 system. I have like a big TM500 modular system. I call it modular. It's lots of modules and you can interpatch them and they sound gorgeous. But I think that fell by the wayside. I built that system in 2020. I used it for a gaming thing that in the end didn't happen. But I really love the sound of it, and it's now in my downstairs studio, and it's the rhythm bass. It's really cool. It sounds really good, and the TM500 stuff is amazing. It's on some of my records. So that is something. If you're near Tektronix, check out the TM500 series. There's wonderful function generators. I think FG501, FG504, amazing stuff. But yeah, check the video. You're gonna find lots and lots of stuff, and the best things to get there usually from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. When it goes digital, it starts to get less interesting. My voice is starting to crack up a little. I'm still on antibiotics. I've had a very, very bad cough for like 6 weeks now, and I finally decided to go to the doctor. Very late, but no, I'm getting antibiotics, but my voice is slightly cracking up. This helps a bit. Traitor to the living. I've got a small TM500 rig. Yeah, isn't it lovely? Yeah. In Brazil, it's very rare to see some musical test equipment. That's what Aber Marquez says. Brazil is it's hard to get stuff like in South America. So, let's go on. Okay, so let's go on with the questions. And we have another one from the subreddit. Bram Damon, I'm curious why you chose Heinbach as your name. Does it refer to the place where you grew up? Okay, the place is like something. Every time there's a place called Heinbach, I think there's a bunch of places called Heinbach, I think, and there's even an Autobahnraststätte, like a how you call it, like a resting place near the Autobahn called Heinbach. And every time somebody passes that by and knows me, like, here's the picture. It's like, yeah, I know Heinbach exists. So, but Heinbach was the maiden name of my late mother. And I really loved the name, and I always wanted to do something with it. And after all the complications, the weird ways like you find your artist name, I found that to be simple and beautiful. It literally means like a small grove of trees next to a river, or a small river. So that's what it means, and it's the maiden name of my mother. Not much more behind that. So now comes a very specific question from the subreddit, and it's from Kalle Mustonen. How would you make Nagraloop and Moog Spectravox sing? I understood that this Moog Outcast is a proper filter bank. Yes, it is. So you can use it as a filter bank. It's just slightly annoying because the knobs are like so small, and I like big faders and such on filter banks, but it sounds very nice, and I've used it with a Nagraloop, and it's really cool. Like it sounds proper. Spectravox sounds proper with the Nagraloop. I do the thing that I do here, like the way I've set up here, and there's another video coming where I talk about like how to make a hybrid digital and analog studio, because that was a wish on the Patreon to make a video about that. Down here I've got a big filter bank, and that filter bank gets fed by a loop from the Nagra over here, but in a way that I can feedback it back onto the Nagra. So I like to basically, when the Nagra is in record, feed it back into itself through a filter bank. And then you get all sorts of beautiful delayed resonances. It's an absolutely wonderful and joyous thing to do. And I'm fiddling around here, down here, because it's literally, I should have put up another camera for that, but I didn't know. So like, it's so fun to feedback with a filter bank. I'm a filter bank addict. I think I've got 3 of the Brillantier, the small ones. I've got the 2 big ones from the 50s and 60s. Talk about not having so much Brillantier. I have a bunch of Brillantier now, but yeah, the filter banks. And then I've got this Rehberg here and the Spectravox. And really cool Spectravox. It's size-wise, it really fits nicely with the Nagra. So, or any tape machine. And feedbacking the machine into itself, like off through the filter bank, or just making a loop and then filtering loop, and sometimes just like sometimes you just want like the beautiful the tape hiss, and you just amplify that and up the gain, and then you have that's actually like a job that I sometimes get, doing this stuff, doing filtered tape loops. That's gonna probably be in the hybrid video, in the hybrid studio video, because yeah, if I get hired, I get hired as the tape production guy for experimental production. So while, for example, there's a string quartet playing, I'm sitting in a control room doing tape loops, cutting them up and running them through ring modulators or filter banks and feeding them back, and then feeding them back through like speakers such as this one into the room. That was yeah, one of my gigs when I'm not doing basically my own thing. So yeah, it's a lot to do with the Spectravox. So, again, I'm going to go through the questions from the patrons and the subreddit now first, and then we're going to do a Q&A round. So please remember your questions, and I'll get to them after I've gone through these questions. Yeah, my voice is a bit... I'm sorry about that. Okay, so now we're going to the Heinbach subreddit, and one thing I have to say about the subreddit. It's really gotten way more active in the recent months, because a whole lot of people are like discovering test equipment for music again. And there's so many people like, is this something? What can I use from here? From this flea market, which of these things should I get? And there's people that are more knowledgeable than me, especially in terms of the technical terms of things, that are answering. It's really lovely to see like a community of people helping each other out. So just a shout out to the subreddit. You're doing a wonderful job, like helping each other out and helping people get into this really weird but absolutely rewarding and worth it way of making music. And that's a good place to start also, because there's so much on there, so much, and very active place now. So go to the questions here, subreddit. I think here it is. If I open it up, can I also be in there? I want to be in there. Good. Woodcarver Steiner. Who are some of your favorite artists outside the electronic music genre? Thank you. There's a lot. That's a very, 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 very small, more than I can name. I was really influenced, for example, by Nick Cave when I grew up. I really loved his approach to songwriting. Hearing the Weeping Song for the first time was something that changed me. Then there's Kurt Weill. I really loved his work with Brecht, and that was something where I was hugely influenced by. Then recently, my phone fell down because I actually looked at like stuff that I recently listened to. So yeah, funny thing is, for some reason I had like a Willie Nelson phase at for a few days, and I was listening to his IRS tapes because they would just strip down him on the acoustic guitar. And that's something I'm still a sucker for, like really stripped down music where it's just like a person on their guitar. I really like that. But then one of the albums recently that's non-electronic, but I really loved, was from Valentina Magaletti, A Queer Anthology of Drums. Oh my God, that album really blew me away in the terms of like how she made the drums sing. Amazing. And then, of course, there's so much music. Like I'm a huge fan of old school reggae and dub. Also, you could argue that already gets electronic, but the electronic it's mixed with the acoustic. So, yeah. That's just a few things. I could go on and on, but just to give you an idea, that's our few things outside of the electronic, a few artists outside of the electronic world that inspire me, and so much more. Okay, I'm stopping here, else I'll just go on. Now, next we have Sockgoop. I know Stockhausen is a major influence to you, but I was wondering if you're also influenced by early industrial music like Throbbing Gristle, Cabaret Voltaire, and Einstürzende Neubauten. Also, in the modern age of virtual analog, physical modeling, and all sorts of digital means for sound design, what is about utilizing test equipment for music that keeps you interested in it? Love your channel, by the way. Thank you, Sockgoop. So for the first question, early electronic industrial music, that was not my influence, because that was basically, I would call this cousin music. So I'm putting myself back here. So the early industrial music, that was music that my cousins would listen to, because I was like by far the youngest kid. So anything that was their music, I was like, no, that's for the old cousins. But I really liked, when I got into industrial, it was with KMFDM, and it was with 9 Inch Nails, the early ones, and Ministry. So those were my industrial influences. And later, when I got more of a musical education, I went into Throbbing Gristle and listened to that. Neubauten was always a special case. I caught them on MTV when I was a kid, but they were already in their more lyrical phase. Du bist das, was keiner braucht, where Blixa was singing really, really, really minimal, I think. So, and it had almost a chanson feeling, everything to it. So That's where I experienced them. So I didn't go into them with their old stuff. That was something I discovered when I'm in my mid-20s. And then there's something when you hear Kalte Sterne and that style of singing. Come on. In my work with Look Mom No Computer, that's something I love to challenge me a bit of Blixer Bargeld in that. So yeah, later. But when I grew up, these were not my influences because, yeah, that was just not around. But there were people that were influenced by them that were then on MTV and such. So because you get influenced mostly about music between the age of 14 to 25, I think. That's already long probably, and then most people forget about music. Doesn't become as important anymore, and it's not formative. It's not formative anymore. So, but yeah, that's how my influences vary. So first it was these industrial bands. And then I learned where they were influenced from, and that in turn influenced me. And yeah, I go back to the jazz funk greats and stuff like that by Throbbing Gristle and enjoy them and enjoy the sonics on that. And then I go into the tools that they used, and I think about the Gristleizer and all of these things. So, but that's something there that comes from my enjoyment on the historic perspective of music also, and then discovering those records and be like, there's the root. That's why they sound like this. There's why that artist sounds like this. And that always brings me joy to pick up all these threads that connect things, music and art. Good. And the second question was the modern age of virtual analog, physical modeling, and all sorts of digital means for sound design. What is about utilizing test equipment for electronic music that keeps you interested in it? First of all, it was not meant for music. It's a struggle to work with it, and I like the struggle. The struggle is absolutely something that's cool about it. It's enjoyable. It's enjoyable to feel like, oh, I'm the first to hear this sound. That's exploration. One of the books that I loved as a kid, it was blue, and it just had a little golden ship on it because probably the paper cover around that hardcover was lost, and it was called The Great Explorers. And I loved reading that book about explorations, and that was something that from like reading about how people explored the Arctic and starved and died there and blah blah blah, or sometimes they had glorious returns. That's something that really stuck with me. So my little explorations in sound, going to places where I'm like, oh, this is. I don't think not even the people that made this have ever heard this sound from it. And that's something that makes me happy. It really makes me happy to feel like, oh, I'm the first to discover this. It's my bit of Indiana Jonesing of things. So that's for me a personal motivation. Then, of course, it's the sonics, because these things are not made for music. They sound different. So they don't sound synthesizer-ish, as my friend Hans Kulk from Willem Tvee's studio would say. It's electronic, but it's not like a synthesizer. It doesn't sound like a synthesizer. It's different sonics. And because they've all so much more gain, I mean, the most modules are at least 25 volts. They just have more power that they put out. So everything overdrives. They make other things that are meant for music, like a mixer. They really push that mixer. In some cases, too much. So you have to be careful. I've got 2 channels on my mixing board here that got a bit UBM damaged from the volume that puts out, so they need op amp replacement, because that's the op amp that crackles in there. But still, the power that you have on tap on that is just wonderful, and it sounds different. And then it's the haptics. The haptics are different. The knobs are bigger, heavier. They're not meant to be moved around a lot. They're not like, do your filter sweep, like, no, it's my first vacuum tube oscillator. Like, it was like, this hurts, I can't do this. There's a lot of haptic feedback involved that makes it very, very different. And then, because it's not made for music, when we're talking, for example, about the Tektronix TM160 vacuum tube oscillator before, that has the way you shift between different ranges. So you can switch on a normal oscillator, even something on the synth, you have a 10-turn port, so you can switch through a huge range at a very fine control. But usually now we have like shorter ranges to go through on an oscillator. You have octaves, and then you have a pitch that you can go through. But on those, they are meant, sometimes they go to 50 kilohertz, 80 kilohertz, 100 kilohertz, and then they go to 2 hertz. So their range is much more unlimited. And excuse me, that results in sometimes very odd octaves, or not octaves, intervals. For example, on the Tektronix, when you switch, I think it's in tritones. So you switch the different from one range to the other. It's in tritones. So when you play it, it's really cool. I really like that. It's a surprise. It gives you different music results, different things to talk about. So these are just a few reasons that I really like it. And one last aspect is like, these things were oftentimes the absolute high end of the time. When you look into a Rode and Schwarz unit, you see there's absolutely no compromise, except maybe the color, because that's military surplus with a tinge of white or something like that. But inside, it's absolutely uncompromising design. This used to be the best stuff, you know? And to have something that is the best stuff, and there's never going to be anything like that again, that's pretty good. It feels proper to work with it. It's really, it's just from a different era, and it sounds really good. So it's nice. It has like its own thing. And I think we're going to go about a few details of that in a bit also. Good. Then we have going to the next question, this time again from my wonderful subreddit, Pizza Yum Yum. How did your journey into music production and audio machinery begin? Glenn Vision, I was going to ask the same thing. So how did I start out? Well, oh, wow, Traitor to the Living. Thank you. Oh, thank you very much. I almost didn't see that. Thank you. That's amazing. Wow. Cool. Thank you for $19.99. That's I should have, then I can buy more of this alcohol-free aperitivo here, which is actually very good for my throat right now. Okay, so thank you, Trader to the Living. My journey began basically, I was in a band. So I was in a band in school, like a guitarist and who I'm still very good friends with, and his sister, they were making like 60s rock, and together, he was playing guitar, she was singing, and they were looking to put together a band, and they heard that I was played piano, and then I borrowed a keyboard and played together with a drummer, and then the second guitarist became the bassist, and we played together, and I bought my first keyboard. I think I got like the cheapest Yamaha Entertainer keyboard I could find, because it had an organ sound and a piano sound. That was all I needed at the time, I thought. But then it was like, this doesn't sound really good. I need to find a way to make it sound good. And I started experimenting with pedals. So I ran like octave pedals and distortion, that Yamaha keyboard, and started to beef up the sound like that. Then I thought, there must be more sounds than this. How can I get different sounds? I was experimenting with Cool Edit Pro 96 to get like electronic sounds, to integrate them into the band. There was a Casio SK1 that or might be even an SK5, I think, that the guitarist said that he borrowed me, and I started to sample the radio from that, and that sounded absolutely fantastic. And then I needed to figure out how to get these radio, Cool Edit Pro, all these sounds into a live band context. And I thought, hey, a synthesizer. I need to buy a synthesizer, the one with the most knobs, so I can make all the sounds in the world. And that was the Roland GP8000. And it was a lot of money that I put into that. I got a little because my grandmother passed away and she left me some money. And I bought that synthesizer from that. That was the GP8000. And I thought, that's it. I only need this to make all the sounds. but it never sounded like Casio, like radio sampled through the microphone as a Casio SK1 or SK5 on cassette. It sounded different, but it was my start into that. It was a way to find more interesting sounds than what I could with the gear that I had available at the time, which was all, basically radio and cheap keyboard, and then going into synthesizers, then discovering analog synthesizers, then discovering granular, then then going into vintage synthesizers because they were decently affordable at the time. Like a Juno 60 cost 450 euros at the time, or Deutschmarks, I think. And so that was my start. And there's one more comment here, I think, because I selected just Beste. I want to see all. Neu. Okay, there's one more question from on the subreddit, before we go to all your questions, from Toby Vanderbeek. At your show at Berghain during Superbooth this year, you blasted the deepest, most blissful buzz for like a solid minute. How did you do that? Equipment, etc. Okay, so that Berghain show, Dasha Rush organized it, was absolutely lovely, and I always wanted to hear the Rode and Schwarz UBM at Berghain. Ever since I got it, I think in 2018, I thought this needs to be played here. So when I got that show, I can finally scrape that off the bucket list. I could say, this is done. I'm going to do this. So I brought 2 Rode and Schwarz UBM there. And my tech insisted that he should come too, just in case something happens, because he fixes those things. And he ended up helping much more because I'd forgotten my audio interface. So he rushed back to my studio to get the audio interface, and that was a great help. But yeah, so I had brought the Rode and Schwarz UBM with me, and then I did a bass solo, and that was absolutely, it sounded so gorgeous. And the funny thing is, nobody of course takes pictures at Berghain, but they do sound recordings. And the next day I was so happy to hear a sound recording of that from somebody standing in the middle with the mobile phone recording it and saying heavy, and like that was like the heaviest stuff. And you can hear people like go absolutely silent, and then like when my bass solo on the Rode and Schwarz UBM in feedback mode was done, they're like, whoa! And I was like, yeah, I was right. This needed to be heard there. This needed to be alive in this room, and I had the right idea with that. And yeah, thank you, Toby Vanderbeek, for asking for that. It was that. It was the Rode and Schwarz UBM. Absolutely amazing in that space. Yeah, good. And now we can go to the questions that you guys have here. Let's do like 15 minutes because I can hear my voice is dropping. Good almighty Greg. I think I can even do it like that. I really like your music. I'm a musician. I just wanted to say thank you for showing me so many ways to hear music. I'm still using tape to record and it's fun. Cool. Thank you. I've got a big video, like almost half an hour, on tape techniques on a very affordable tape machine coming out, where I discovered something new that I really, really like, and it cost me to buy 2 more of that machine. That's, I think, going to come out tomorrow. And that's, so tape, there's always something new to discover in tape. What do we have here? Any hidden tips for the Mona V32 step sequencer? I ordered one from Germany. I don't know that one. I've got no idea about that step sequencer. I'm sorry, so I can't help. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, here's a story. Nicolas Makumi. Hi Heimbach everyone. Falling in electrical accident caused by a raclette machine. Switzerland. I lost 2 hard drives containing backup copies of 10 years worth of music, sound design, documentary. Oof. And electroacoustic music. All my artistic work, important and unique archives. Have you ever experienced a similar loss? Yeah, early on. Like really early on. I got a new PC and I wanted to have all the data transferred. my PC. I think what was happening. I think the PC, there was the broken power supply, I think, and I wanted to have it fixed. And because I had used some sort of encryption on my hard drives, the people that fixed it up, that was way, way, way long ago. That was when I was still living in Freiburg. So I was probably 19 or 18 or 19. They just erased the hard drives and set up a completely new system. I was like, what have you done? So it wasn't 10 years, but it was like all my work from, I don't know, from my first 3 or 4 years that I had that PC and that I was basically making music. All the early stuff was erased, and I was heartbroken. So from that point on, I've always backed up, and I've got 3 backup systems going. Like all the stuff that's happening at the moment is going to iCloud always. Then I've got a secondary backup online going to a crash plan, and then I've got a third backup that I do manually to a little NAS drive here. So there's a lot of backups in place. So not very structured, but every time like I have something like that, like a loss of something during something, I can recoup and recover. Yeah, backup. I learned that really, really early on. I used to burn CDs, like backup CDs, like every time I had a project finished. Oof. I got into making some chiptune music for a few years. What's your opinion on this genre? I basically, when I was in Hamburg, it was all around me. Artists like Plemo, and then there was another one. It's so long ago. There were a few people that were into micro music and chip music, and I really liked it. It was fun. And I still like, one of the things that I like to listen when I go, for example, to a different city to explore, is put on like the Turrican 2 soundtrack by Chris Hülsbeck, and in the original version, that really provides a proper soundtrack to exploring something new for me. So yeah, I like chiptunes. I've got a SID station over there. You know, I would love to work with that on something. I've only used it for a few sound design things, but I haven't made a track with it. So chiptune, very nice. Heimbach by Rapid Action Animations. What's your opinion on the Cork Walkers? I had the drum, and I put that on a bike for a theater play, and I also had the keys, which I also put on a bike for a theater play. That was really cool. They were really lovely little boxes, especially the keys. I enjoyed that. And I think, I've got the FM. Also used that for theater. It was lovely boxes that provided a lot of sonic variety to the actors. So I'm fond of that for that use. In my own work, in my own solo work, I don't use them because I simply don't have a spot anymore for small boxes. Like, that's completely missing from my studio. I completely took out the table. I had a table set up where I did like demos and stuff. I don't have that anymore because I don't really make tabletop music anymore unless I'm on holiday. So yeah. That's why I don't have. I have the FM one still somewhere in my storage over there. Really good one. I got Tim Dale music. I've got the Collide 4, and it's awesome. Any other ideas, equipment that you'd like to see being made into Eurorack? Oh, there's a bunch. The biggest point is oftentimes that some things that make the sound are like big coils and stuff, which is really hard to realize in a Eurorack module. But or like really tubes is also impossible to do really nicely, I think, because of the voltages that you have. That's always a limiting factor, like the 12 to 15 volts that you maximally have. But yeah, there's a few things that I could see working in Eurorack. But yeah, some are just impossible because of the way. I don't know, for example, from the analog ones, I don't know if a boxcar averager, which is one of the hardest pieces of test equipment to make music with, but right now in the subreddit, it's all the rage. I don't know if that would be worth to turn into a Eurorack module, because it is super hard mode, and it's cool. Yeah, but yeah, we'll see what comes. I mean. Yeah, much of the So even with Collide, what I did, for example, was to add like the big knobs from Music Thing Modular to have some of that haptic thing, more big knobs and control. But with Eurorack, like when you make something, you always have to think about like what's a good size. Module 20 HP is pretty big, and anything that goes over that already starts to like, people tend to not buy it anymore. But you have to find ways to add this lovely big control. Music Thing Modular knobs are already a thing for that. So, there are a lot of things. So, I have a big collection of gear, says Inkokus. How do you decide when to get rid of a piece of gear, or do you keep it all? I've mostly regretted many of the things I've let go, except for the Roland MC303, because I hate that thing. And I keep a lot, and the things I sell, I sell a few things, but I keep more around, simply because I don't know when the moment will come when I need it, because that's my scoring work when I work for a film or something, or for the theater, which I used to do a lot. It's always good to have something to pull out, to either put in the hand of an actor or to use for that specific scene, because you know that thing and you have that sound, and there's an idea to that. So I don't sell too much, no, and I keep most of the things. But I tend to keep in the studio here only the things that are really active, that are all working, and then I've got this shelf over there where I pull out things from time to time as I need them, especially for holidays. And then I've got 2 or 3 lean boards, which is a fancy term for, well, not fancy term, it's just a term for the keyboards that are not active. But for example, if I want a different mono bass, there's a Roland SH2 that I use. Or yeah, like if I want like an FM thing, I've got a DX7 downstairs, or leaning against the wall that I can just pull out to get that sound. I don't need it all the time, but if I want it, put it up here on a stand, put it back. So it doesn't, these are things that help me go over the everything has to be connected and always like 100% all the time. You can just plug in things if you need them. So, but yeah, this is my life. So I make my living doing these things. This might not be practical advice for yeah, in general. I don't understand how to get rich to buy all softwares and hardwares in poor countries of Middle East. Luckily, there's a lot of freeware and cool stuff there. I haven't in a long time like checked what was up, but there's a lot of stuff like that's affordable and that you can get, and you can do a lot of stuff with it, or to work with software like Reaper or something like that. When I grew up, there was basically no free software except for Cool Edit, and that was also shareware, I think, time limited and stuff like that. Now there's a lot of options, at least in terms of sequences, new sequences where you can work with that. But I can't tell you how to get rich. That's probably also something you should not ask any musician how to get rich. Okay, so I'm gonna do 3 more, 3 more, then my voice is done. Sorry. Robo Army. Hi Heimbach, how important is music theory to you? A lot. So I studied music theory, and then I forgot about it mostly. But I have it. It's not like I constantly look at like what this chord and blah 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 is. But I've got a lot of music theory stored. But also because I studied musicology and I studied systematic musicology. So there I also had to learn how to write like Palestrina. Or I had to do all the Satzlehre and stuff like that. But I also had to do, music psychology. I had to do acoustics. I had to do DSP. I had to do law. So music theory is a broad field for me. And but I'm happy that I don't have to analyze stuff. That's not what I do. But I like to, for composition, I like to know it. I like to know the basics, because that's how you get from loops, bars to compositions. So it really helps, but it's more something that's underneath, and that's why I never focus on my channel on it, because there are people that cover that stuff more deeply, that really care about it. I care about other things. So, but it's underlying everything I do. Do you know whatever happened to Legia99 from the subreddit? He was such an encyclopedia of test equipment knowledge, seemed to just disappear one day. Traitor to the living. Oh, I can check up on him. We like text from time to time, like write emails. So I can check up on him. Maybe he's just not on Reddit anymore. So I can check up. I'll let him know that he's missed. Okay. Have you ever provided sound design and music for Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream? Harry Woodall 7008. I've done Hamlet, I've done Macbeth, I've done Much Ado About Nothing, I've done The Taming of the Shrew, but I have never had the pleasure of doing A Midsummer Night's Dream, which would have been absolutely amazing to do. Okay, one more. Okay, two more. Now I'm going to quit. Absolutely quit. Marcus Smitherton. When working with noise ambient textures, what's your approach to finding structure, transforming noise into a finished product? I don't like that word, but to a finished piece, like there's a really simple way to do it. I think it's just through transposition to different harmonies, and to look at the contrasting harmonies in there, and then use harmony. Harmony is like such a cheat code. It's harmony and melody they're cheat codes basically. It's easy to make melodies and harmonies compared to like interesting textures. I find that might be completely like a controversial statement, but it really helps to have that kind of structure, like simply going up, having a part, and then you go, okay, so now I want more tension. You go up a fourth, and then you might go to the fifth, and you're basically in the circle of fifths already, and it's all simple. And then you go back in a fluid way without it becoming too obnoxious. And that can already create so much tension in a genre that's generally not much modulating. And of course, creating constantly flows of like notes going up, going down, making fishes, doing a bit of counterpoint in there, trying to find call and response, even in ambient, is absolutely wonderful. One sound goes da-dang, another one answers bing-gang, da-dang, gang-gang. So if you have that kind of thing where the music starts talking with itself and then it starts talking to the listener, that really helps to get it to come alive. Okay. Hello Heinbach, thank you for being an inspiration. How do you know when a piece is finished? Do you get stuck in endless experimentation? Chasm of mirrors. No. Piece is finished when it's like hitting good, and the hardest part sometimes can be the mix. So with the mix, that's when I take like 5-6 different versions. But in terms of the composition, okay, there does this thing, that goes here. It takes me on its journey, and it gently pulls me back, then it's done. Mix can be like, oh, I need to check it here, I should do this differently. That can take a bit longer than the actual composition. So I'm never really stuck in experimentation, endless. And oftentimes because music writing is my job, so for film and theater, as I said before, and for other things, it's oftentimes done when the director says, now it's done, or when the deadline has gone too far, then it's done. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so now I have to quit this. I'm sorry, else I won't have no voice, and I'm going to Paris tomorrow. And if you're in Paris, come by to the Patch Point pop-up that's happening there. I'll be playing there Wednesday, and I'm going to collect sounds at GRM, and I'm going to process them on tape and the Coco Quantos and with their new GRM studio, and do a little performance from those pieces on Wednesday in Paris. So I gotta get my voice I gotta take care of my voice. So if you're around there, yeah, I'll be seeing you there, or tell people that I'm in Paris. And tomorrow I'll put out a new video on tape techniques, which is a long one. I think that was something where I edited, like mixing. In this case, I filmed long because I had the tape machine here basically set up for a month or something. I tried different things, but then I exported the edit of the video like 6 times because I felt, no, I need to change the pacing there, because if a video is so complex, that can take a long time to then actually like get the pacing right. So it's like mixing in that regard. Thank you for being here. It's been lovely. And let's do a Q&A again, maybe in the new year. All right. See you tomorrow here on this channel with the new video. Bye.